we're going on to another subject now, and the question
Okay.
starts off for you. So this is about development, and opposed to downtown development, which we'll come to later. This is about development of approaches. And at a Comcast forum, Ann, you said that development north of Hammer Lane but south of 8 Mile Road, you'd been told by developers that they would include such amenities as shopping complexes, offices, retail. And you said you learned a lesson about developers after that when they just built houses. I'm wondering if that's a lesson you should have known when you were on the council, what the repercussions are, and how do you fix it going forward?
Well, obviously, I should have known a lot more than we all should have known a lot more. There have been many decisions made that we didn't have full disclosure of all the ramifications and all the pros and cons. When I was on the Stockton City Council, remember, I was on the council from January 1996 to December 2002. And following my departure from the council is when the most rapid growth in real estate occurred here in Stockton. It was just beginning when I left the council. During the latter part of the 90s, there were development projects that came forward that had been approved by a voter, by an initiative in the mid-1980s. And so they were basically on the books. True, they were not entitled yet, but I'll use one example. What is now Spanos West, which is now the shopping center out there, that whole area to the west of I-5, south of 8 Mile, that whole big chunk of land was sold, quote, sold to the city council as a high-tech business park. We did a special zoning on that, an MX zoning. The city had not had an MX zoning before, which is mixed use. It is the same zoning that's at University Park down here on Harding Way, where there's going to be a mixed use of education, retail, office space. Spanos came before us and asked for an MX zoning to bring in a high-tech business park. There would be some homes there that would be obviously for the people who worked in this high-tech business park. The sale was, quote, Silicon Valley. It's time we have high-tech. We're going to do all the lines, the wiring, all this stuff to make it possible. Well, obviously, that did not come to pass. And again, the market is to blame for all of that, according to the developer. We approved that with the idea that that's what it was going to be. That's how the design was laid out. And it did not come to pass. It got rezoned. It got changed back to straight residential, much like Weston Ranch did. And there are many people in Weston Ranch still who are very unhappy about what happened to Weston Ranch, because what was promised there did not come to fruition. Now, the lesson I learned, other than not believing everything you're told, is you do development agreements that are actually specific plans that have the framework for making sure that there are no zoning changes as this development moves forward. You have agreements that you have the affordable housing, the mixed uses, you have these things in place, and so whoever buys the land has to abide by those specific agreements in the development plan.
Do you think the Mariposa Lakes specific plan that is going through is an appropriate one then?
I think it is, because it basically memorializes the elements of a plan that should be in any kind of development in the city of Stockton. Now, it sounds beautiful. It's got all the elements that are required. They've agreed to virtually everything from putting in land, building schools, to LEED certification, all of those things. The key part is making sure that when they sell off the land, the developers who come in and build those projects will adhere to that. And the plans as they are written, I believe, actually will require that. Because anybody can put a development plan out there for approval. It's what happens when it moves down the pipeline and those pieces are sold off, and how far those developers or builders live with the development plan as it's written. So the devil is in the details, and Stockton has to make sure that we have development agreements that are basically specific plans that lay it out, enumerate it, exactly what's going to happen, and memorialize it in the deed work and all of the legal documents that go with the development.
Which we will now do, because that is what the new general plan requires. And we will do that. And listen to what you just heard. You basically heard, and I'm going to be critical here because it's important to draw the distinction. But I don't blame you for the votes you took on development, because you joined a council and that's what was going on, and you know, you took it at face value. But the problem is you voted over 100 times for projects. You're still blaming that 1980s initiative. That initiative did not approve, it permitted. There is a huge difference. And Ms. Johnson, I've examined the record. You were not beating the, you were not on your soapbox during these council meetings. Some citizens were saying you're getting out here, LeBaron Estates, you're encroaching on farmland, you're getting pretty far north, you're getting out here. You were silent except for your affirmative vote. And you're right, there were 2 or 3 that you didn't vote on, but by and large, you approved this stuff. I don't hold you so much, I don't blame you so much for that, except that the way that you're trying to repackage yourself. And what you're basically saying is that you're excused from the 11,000 plus units that you approved, and that somehow we're now on the wrong track. The fact is, if the development that happens through 2035, well, not if development happens through 2035, it's going to be exponentially better than any of the development that happened under the 1990 general plan. We have some of those developments which are already blighted and crime-ridden. The city will check its box first under the current general plan. The city will be made whole. New development will pay for itself. A planning commissioner asked when Mariposa Lakes was in front of the planning commissioner, will this project pay for itself? The answer was yes. The city gets to check its box first. We will have police and fire and bricks and mortar paid for first. The developers can then figure out how to make their money, and they will, because that's what they do. That isn't my issue. But I've already had a developer tell me, well, I may not be able to do this project. And I said, well, so what? So then don't do it. And why? He said, well, I can't make any money. Well, when you figure out how to make money, I imagine it'll come forward. So the bottom line is this, that we are headed in the right direction with development. The development that my opponent has participated in is a huge part of the problem that we have now. And the worst part of it is this. It led us to 8 Mile Road, and it is so disingenuous to have taken us to 8 Mile Road and now draw the line at 8 Mile Road, because the developments out there want to happen because of what's happened for the last 15 years.
What about that, Ann?
The greatest growth has occurred in the last 6 years. All of these projects that were out there have happened in the last 6 years during the housing boom. I mean, that's what's happened. Our homes have become affordable for Bay Area dwellers. They moved in. We all know what's happened to the economy with the finance structure, the credit lines. People came in, bought the homes, the market was there. So all the development, the significant part of it has occurred over the last 6 years. Yes, I approved developments when I was on the city council. Yes, I denied developments. There was not a land rush when I was on the city council. There was housing development that was fairly moderate, fairly regulated. I remember sitting in developers' offices and they're whining about the fact they hadn't sold more than 3 homes that month. And these were new developments that were just going in near Bear Creek, near the high school. So I think that, again, I think we all can share the blame for where we are today. Have we learned from the past? Absolutely. And I think that it's important that we recognize the collective lessons that we've learned, and that's why when I left the city council and saw that the general plan was going to be revised, having learned what I did when I was on the council in terms of developer promises, I felt it was critical that we devise a general plan that spoke to smarter growth practices than we had been practicing.
So do you defend your votes on the 11,000 units as correct? Do you defend your development votes?
Absolutely. At the time, they were perfectly fine. At the time, the services were there.
No, but they were entitlements. They didn't build houses the next day after you approved them. The houses that were built that you're talking about are the ones that you approved when you were on the council.
No. Cleb, listen. I approved developments that were in line, that were logical at the time. They were not out there where they shouldn't have been. The services were provided, and it was not that everything was there in place that needed to be in place.
Well, that's not
It
true.
was not.
That's
No.
just not true.
I mean,
that's a nice story, but it's not true.
well, your story is just as fallacious. So, give us a break here. I mean, my point is, We have a situation, and we have to go forward doing better in this community.
I agree.
And I think,
And we started doing that. We started doing that
yeah,
when we adopted the general plan that basically safeguards us against 15 years of sprawl that you presided over as a member of that council.
No, it doesn't.
That's
It is
what
a
we did.
blueprint. It's the general plan that your council approved, which I fought against most of the provisions of that in the time that I've been off the city council. The provisions that you actually put into place, it doubled the size of this community in 20 years. It is a recipe for sprawl, and I don't care if you think the policies are in that general plan that would prevent that. They're not in that plan to any significance that would require all of those developments that spread out north of 8 Mile Road, east and west and every which way, to do what needs to be done to have good, controlled, smart growth.
That's where we're going to end